generations of Tannahills can be traced back as far as 1541 in Kilmarnock. Weaving was in their blood. In 1756, 4 Tannahill brothers, all master weavers, arrived in Paisley to join the town's 1,300 looms in the manufacture of linen, muslin and silk gauze. In 1769, the poet's father James settled with his wife and family in a steading in Castle Street. It was here in the cottage in Castle Street that Robert Tannahill was born, on 3rd of June 1774, the 5th son of James Tannahill and Janet Pollock. A plaque now marks this spot in Castle Street. In 1775, the poet's father, now a wealthy weaver, bought a steading in Queen Street. On it he built a single-storey cottage, with central passage leading on the left to living quarters, and on the right to a 4-loomed weaving shop. It was here that Tannahill spent most of his life. Robert began school aged 6, but did not distinguish himself. However, he did have one gift: he was good at English. When about 10, he wrote a poem which alluded to the big, brown, unshapely nose of a well-known, gluttonous character who took large quantities of snuff. My colour's brown, my shape's uncouth, on ilka side I hae a mouth, and strange to tell I will devour my bulk of meat in half an hour. Aged 12, Robert became an apprentice weaver to his father, and naturally took to the loom. Despite his gammy leg, Tannahill, like other young people in Paisley, attended dancing lessons under the strict tuition of William Banks, who held classes in Moss Street. As a young man, Tannahill showed a keen mind for the study of literature. He became a member of the Literary and Convivial Club in Paisley and the New Club, where literature and poetry were discussed. He later helped found the Trades Library with several others. Paisley at this time was known as the town of poetry and perns. However, it was to be noted that poetry came first. While he was at the loom, Robert wanted to catch every fugitive thought in poetry or music. He hung on his loom post an inkwell and a shelf to act as a desk. He had a good ear for music and played an old German flute well. Whenever a tune pleased him, he would add his own appropriate lyrics. Tannahill was a slender-looking man. He stood 5 feet 4 inches high, with light brown hair, grey eyes and an aquiline nose, which was a Tannahill family trait. He had a halt in his walk due to a deformed right leg, a legacy of birth. He dressed modestly and becomingly. He wore a small bonnet, a cravat, a blue jacket with metal buttons, a buff waistcoat, cashmere breeches and worsted stockings. Jessie Tennant was born in Brayport, Dunblane in 1770, in the little cottage on the extreme left of picture. She and her mother came to Paisley to obtain work and stayed in John Street near Tannahill's cottage. The poet first met Jessie in 1795. The courtship lasted 3 years, but not without its difficulty. Jessie complained to her friends that Tannahill was so desperately shy he hardly ever spoke to her. Yet he was deeply in love with her. In 1798 they were invited to a large ball, the social event of the year. Tannahill point blank refused to go, but agreed that an acquaintance of Jessie's might go in his place. Stricken with jealousy, he hid in Jessie's close to await their return from the ball. He was horrified to see Jessie and her escort exchange a good-night kiss. Tannahill crept silently away and in his workshop spent the night composing a poem. He took it round to Jessie in the morning. Tannahill handed the poem to her in silence and resolutely walked away. The fairest flower in nature's field conceals the rankling thorn. So thou, sweet flower, as false as fair, this once kind heart hath torn. 'Twas mine to prove the fellest pangs that slighted love can feel. 'Tis thine to weep that one rash act which bids this long farewell. Between 1804 and 1806, the fame of the obscure verse-making weaver, as Tannahill described himself, had reached Glasgow, Edinburgh and London. His work had been printed in leading publications of the day. In 1808, Tannahill completed his song dedicated to the old girlfriend Jessie Tennant. When the song first appeared to great acclaim, a leading music critic likened the work to a piece by Mozart. The Mozart in this case was a close friend of Tannahill's, Robert Archibald Smith.
The sun has gone down o'er the lofty Ben Lomond and left the red clouds to preside o'er the scene, while lately I stray in the calm summer gloaming to muse on sweet Jessie, the flower o' Dunblane. How sweet is the brier with its soft golden blossom, and sweet is the birk with its mantle o' green. Yet sweeter and fairer and dear to this bosom is lovely young Jessie, the flower o' Dunblane.
Tannahill and Smith became acquainted in or about 1800. Our poet wrote of Smith, an accomplished singer and musician who had hailed from England. There is Rab for the sooth, wi' his fiddle and flute. I could list to his songs till the stars fall out. In 1807, such was Smith's musical ability, he was appointed as precentor to Paisley Abbey, where he raised the singing in the church to a high pitch of excellence. Tannahill wrote one of his best poems on the back of a 1-guinea note issued by the Paisley Banking Company. The poet's excellent lines were written on the corrupting influence of money. Thou little badge of independence, the Macastine pride dance mean attendance. Thou sure hast magic in thy looks, gives poets taste for tasteless books, makes lawyers lie, makes courtiers flatter, and wily statesmen patriots clatter. Makes ancient maids seem young again, at 60 beauteous as 16. Makes foes turn friends and friends turn foes, and drugmen brew the poisoning dose. And even as common say prevails, thou makes e'en justice tip the scales. In 1800, due to depression in the weaving trade, Tannahill and his brother set out for work in England. He ended up in Bolton and spent 2 years there. He had his portrait painted during his stay in Bolton. This painting of the poet is known as the Bolton portrait. On hearing of his father's illness, both brothers returned to Paisley and arrived in time to hear their father's dying words. Tannahill and Smith, great admirers of Robert Burns, met with others to attend the first meeting of the Burns Anniversary Society. This historic meeting, held in 1805 in the Sun Tavern, Paisley, was the world's first Burns Club. Robert Tannahill acted as secretary. The first edition of Tannahill Poems, Songs and Drama appeared in 1807. It was very favourably received by the public, particularly its 900 subscribers. This warm reception whetted the poet's desire for a wider, less local circulation, and in 1810 he sent several manuscripts to various publishers, but without success. In the spring of 1810, James Hogg, celebrated in Edinburgh literary circles as the Ettrick Shepherd, made a pilgrimage to Paisley to seek out Paisley's famous weaver poet. When the two first met, Hogg later recalled, he was a swarthy man, bearing no external indication of the intellectual lava tide that slumbered in his soul. Hogg spent the night as Tannahill's guest, and they shared their gifts of poetry and song with like minds. The following morning, Tannahill accompanied Hogg on his return journey as far as Crookston Road in Glasgow. Before they parted, Tannahill grasped Hogg's hand and burst into tears. Hogg said to Tannahill, "Robert, dinna take things so serious. We shall often meet again." "No, Hogg," said Tannahill. "This has been the proudest day of my life." Despite the recent stimulating meeting with Hogg, Tannahill's mind suffered a mental breakdown. His body by this time was emaciated, and he had a racking cough. Tuberculosis had claimed a goodly number of his family. In a fit, he destroyed well over 100 of his manuscripts. His depression became overwhelming. The troubled life of Paisley's poet ended on 17th May 1810 in a cold, deep, watery siphon of the newly completed Paisley Canal. He was only 36 years old. A day after the poet's death, John Morton, a family friend, sketched the poet's profile from the dead body. The poet was buried in an unmarked grave in the West Relief churchyard at a private family affair. After the poet's death, many editions of his works were produced. In 1858, the Tannahill Club was established by local architect J. J. Lamb. This club raised a tombstone over the poet in 1866 when the body was reinterred. William Fulton was a boyhood friend of the poet. He was from humble beginnings, but by dint of hard work ended up owning the estate known as the Glen. In 1856, William Fulton Jr., fifth from left, invited Paisley's leading businessmen to his estate to celebrate the birthday of Queen Victoria. Seated in the middle of the picture is Matthew Tannahill, the brother of the poet, then aged 77. This was the precursor of the Glen concerts. It was not, however, until the centenary celebrations in 1874 that appreciation of Tannahill moved beyond a select few. Thus began the Glen concerts, held in the Glen in the place so beloved of the poet. The 1888 Glen concert shows the famous artist Sir John Lavery painting the lively scene before him. Note all classes of people in the picture dressed in their Sunday best. Tannahill and Burns' songs were sung by massed choirs. In peak years, as many as 30,000 attended the concerts, and not just from Paisley. Here we see the concert of 1900 and the concert of 1920. Let us now hear a verse of our poet's best-known song, The Bonnie Wood of Craigielee, sung by Paisley's own Ken McCallum.
The bonny wood o' Craigielee, the bonny wood o' Craigielee, near thee I've spent life's early day, and won my Mary's heart in thee. The brome, the brier, the birken bush, bloom bonny o'er thy flowery lea, and all the sweet that in can wish, bring nature's horn astrewed on thee. bonny wood o Craigley, the bonny wood o Craigley, near thee I've spent life's early day, and won my Mary's heart in thee.
The song Craigley was picked up by Banjo Patterson while on a visit to the home of Christine Macpherson in Dagworth, Queensland. She played the tune to Patterson on her autoharp. The pretty tune was transformed magically by Patterson into the famous song Waltzing Matilda. In his short life, Tannahill produced 170 or so songs and ranks second only to Robert Burns. Here we see the bust of Tannahill inside the Wallace Monument at Stirling. Who does he have for company? Robert Burns and Sir Walter Scott. Tannahill has truly climbed the hill of Parnassus, and Paisley is proud of him. William Motherwell, a great admirer of the poet, said of Tannahill, "Tannahill's name will long be remembered, and it will be a long day ere another like him shall sweep the Scottish lyre with so delicate and so artless a touch."